And then we start. Okay. So good evening, good morning, good afternoon to all the different countries. But here I am Brenda Zwinkels in the Netherlands. So it's evening here right now. Welcome all. And also a warm welcome to the people that were not able to join us tonight, but will look back at the replay. Thank you for joining us as well in this meeting. And let me explain a little bit about what you can expect tonight, because we're here with a beautiful group of people. We just say the team of holding space in Europe, because there are beautiful events coming up in Belgium and the Netherlands. And we work together in this. And how beautiful that the Center of Holding Space is organizing this webinar, this free webinar, to invite you to look at things, to look at nurturing yourself, um, nurturing a good relationship with yourself, a healthy relationship. So I hope that this evening offers you something that maybe resonates with you. We will start with a little check-in. After that, Heather will speak a little bit more about the theme that we have tonight, and so that you can explore for yourself what holding space for you means. Our intention is to have a webinar in about tonight that will dure 90 minutes. And it gives you the opportunity as well to make contact with us, to see who's in this team. And if you might want to join a workshop, a live workshop, then you already have a kind of feeling, what are those people that really feel so that are so attached to this work and bringing this work into the world. As you can see, everybody is muted. That's because then we don't have all the sounds, but feel free to put questions in the chat if you have them. Krista, oh, I can see you. That's the tech help. You can see that she's waving at this moment to you. If you have any technical questions, you can send her a private message in the chat and she will help you with things if there is a problem. Okay, so first I want to do a check-in and take a moment to look at everybody on your screen. And I'm going to do that as well. I see that we have 45 persons in the room. And maybe you can imagine when you look at all the faces and you go to page 2 as well, that you can look at the faces and see, maybe imagine that we're in one big room together. I asked you already to put the country where you are at the moment in the chat. So maybe we can just wave. The people from the Netherlands, we can wave to each other, to the other countries that are in the room, so that we can see who is in the Netherlands and say like a hi with waving, or another way of saying hello to other people. Thank you. And then we can wave maybe, or let the people from Belgium wave to us. So who's from Belgium? And can you say hi by waving towards us? And go to the second page as well, that you can feel the welcome from the people from Belgium as well. Thank you, people from Belgium. And I see there is one from Portland. The one from Portland, yeah, Mary, she's waving towards us and saying hi. Thank you, Mary. And let's see if Costa Rica, where is someone that's from Costa Rica? Can you wave towards us as well? And I don't see it.
I think they have their camera turned off right now.
Ah, okay. But a warm welcome to Costa Rica as well. And Lucinia? Yes, I see Lina waving at us. Do you see her as well? Maybe on the next page. Welcome to you as well. And did I forget somebody? Then please wave as well, so that you Feel that you're part of, oh, Canada, of course, Krista and Heather, and maybe more people from Canada. Okay, so that was that it can be overwhelming as well to have all those faces on your screen. But it's a way of making contact, like we live in the world here outside. We see a lot of people, we see a lot of faces. And it's most of the time we reach out to other people. But tonight is also about holding space for yourself. So I want to ask you to make the movements towards yourself right now. And you can do that by maybe looking down or closing your eyes. But from a moment, you you get out of contact with all the faces on the screen and go to your own body. And maybe you can feel yourself sitting on the chair or on the couch or on something else where you sit on right now. Just feel the chair. Maybe your feet are on the ground or they lying up. But feel your feet, make contact with where your feet are at this moment. And where are your hands? Just notice where are your hands at this moment. Make contact with your body. And if you're here with making contact with your body, just check in with a question like, how do I arrive right now? Maybe you are in a hurry to be here on time and you feel that there is a lot of energy still going in your body. Maybe you're very tired because it's the end of the day. Maybe you feel excited. What's tonight going to bring you? What kind of feeling is right now present in your body? Without trying to change it, just observe it. And is there one word that comes close by how you feel right now? And you feel free to share that word, how you arrive here today in the chat. So that if you want to share that, we can see how do you arrive here. Now we'll be quiet for just a minute to let you arrive here with that feeling. for sharing. You could read it in the chats if you like how people checked in. But thank you for sharing and thank you for the silence. That's also a way of holding space for yourself, arriving and checking in with yourself without trying to change it. Okay, now I want to open the space for Heather. And Heather, can you share with us a little bit more about the theme about tonight?
Yes, thank you, Brenda. Thank you for that beautiful opening. You've helped settle my own body, so I feel peaceful now and open to what's going to happen today. I'm delighted to be here with all of you, and I have to admit I was starting to get a little bit emotional moments ago when I look at a screen full of people that are mostly across an ocean. Some are here in North America, but many are across an ocean, and I don't get tired of this. Every time it happens, I still feel this kind of excitement of, oh, wow, look at all of these amazing people that are being moved by this work, that are engaging with this work so deeply. And I think what's moving me the most right now is sitting in front of this team of people that are all quite engaged in the work and hosting the work in Europe. And I just find that very, very moving and humbling to have been a catalyst for giving birth to this work that continues to help people grow and heal and evolve and build deeper relationships with each other. So I want to give a little bit of a history of this idea that we're talking about today, holding space for yourself and nurturing a relationship with yourself. Several years ago, when this work really took off and began to evolve in the world, I wrote a blog post about what it means to hold space. And I shared the story of being at my mother's deathbed. And many of you may have read that either in the book or the original blog post that came out. And very quickly after that, what happened was I started getting emails from many, many people, thousands of emails in my inbox from people sharing stories about how they were holding space for other people, how it resonated, the language gave them meaning. And it was beautiful to see all these stories, but really quickly, all of a sudden, what hit me like a 10-ton truck, what hit me was, are all of these people aware of the need to hold space for themselves? All of these incredible stories of people holding space in prisons, in conflict zones, in hospitals, and in classrooms, and some of them really, really challenging, holding space with convicts or people who'd been in conflict, deep conflict. And my heart just started to swell for all of these people. And I thought, is anyone teaching them how to hold space for themselves? Because what I saw in front of me was a large group of people who were potentially burning themselves out, giving to these other people, giving all that they had, all of the energy they had to other people. And it was a beautiful generosity that I witnessed. But my heart hurt for the people that might be giving too much of themselves. And so very early on, when I started to develop this work, it became really clear to me that if we are going to develop a body of work centered around the theme of holding space, then at the core of that work, we need to know how to hold space for ourselves. If we don't learn to hold space for ourselves, not only will we become burnt out, but we will do damage to relationships, we'll do damage to other people out of our own pain. We may have physical ailments. There's a lot of reasons, a lot of ways that we become harmed by that, by not holding space for ourselves. But when we do really lean into this practice of holding space for ourselves, we begin to become much more able to witness ourselves, to sit with our own pain, to be present with our own emotions when those emotions feel big and out of control, to heal our own trauma, to be in that self-reflective place of seeing our own biases and not letting those biases damage our relationships. So it's a practice of self-witnessing, self-reflection, self-soothing when we get triggered. All of those things are present in this practice of holding space for oneself. And it changes our relationships. When we are in that self-aware place, we don't dump on other people. They don't get hurt by us. We're able to be present with them. We're able to have those difficult conversations because we don't get knocked flat by them. So what's going to be happening in this workshop? Many of the people you see, most of the people on this European team have been with us through, we have a 8-month foundation program in holding space, and then we have a certification program, another 8 months. And in that time, we spent a lot of time talking about how to hold space for ourselves. So 4 out of the 5 people that are on the team have done this work with us. Fanny has not specifically done it with us, but I know her well enough to know she has done a considerable amount of work on this in other ways. And so they are bringing some of the wisdom that they have gained in their many years of their own holding space for themselves and learning these practices. And so I'm going to go through the list of each person offering a tip from what they know. And then I'll close it off with one of my final tips. You're going to have a bit of a chance to interact. We're going to try to make sure there's a little bit of space at the end of each person giving a tip, so that if you have a question you really want to ask, we may only have time to respond to one question, but if there are more questions, you can throw them into the chat room just as a way of encouraging us all to reflect on some other aspect of them. But we can't promise that we'll answer all of those questions. We're going to have to try to manage the time. Once that's all finished, we're going to have some time for breakout rooms, because we do think it's really important to integrate some of these ideas. And integration comes from being present with the idea in a conversational space, in a reflective space. So you'll have some time for that at the end. So that's my introduction. And now I want to begin by inviting the team one by one to go through their tip. And I'm going to put Sonia on the spot first. Sonia is from Belgium. She's a member of our team, one of our certified practitioners in Belgium. She's going to be helping to host the upcoming workshop in Belgium, the first one at the beginning of October. So Sonia, I'm going to pass it to you.
Hello, everybody. Glad to see you all here this evening or this morning, or I don't know which time you are here. I like to share one important experience about holding space, which is for me important, is that to hold space for myself, I want to step out of the reactivity mode. It's the way of reacting on calls, messages, emails, while taking me away from myself, while I'm trying to respond as quick as possible. And in fact, at that moment, I'm just holding space for others, and I forget to hold space for myself. So I installed a little check-in, which already sensed when we started this talk, by just taking a little bit time before you're opening your mailbox or before you're looking at your GSM to watch your messages, just a little time to land and to feel. And so I have 3 check-in questions which I use for myself, 3 questions which helps me to connect with myself before I step outside in the world. And the first question we already had with Brenda introduced, and I invite you eventually to explore these questions together with me in silence. You don't have to respond, you don't have to do anything, just follow the questions and feel what pops up. And the first one is, how do you feel right now? Just take the time. We have already a little moment between we entered in the call and now. How is it now? Has it evolved? Has it changed? Are you getting curious or a little bit irritated? Just what pops up, and you don't have to change anything. Just that little connection. It doesn't have to take long, just to feel, how am I now? And giving that space, not wanting to change, just embrace the feeling which pops up as a little information which can take with you during the day. And then comes to a second question. And that's it. What's important for me right now, in this moment in my life? And we don't have to make it very difficult or analyze, just trusting that what pops up is that what wants to be seen, that asks attention right now. And it can be something like, oh, I feel that it's important to take rest, or it's important to see someone or to hear someone. Just feel what's important for you right now in your life. And the third question is, what's possible right now? If you take into account how you feel at this moment and what's important for you, given the actual situation you live in, what's possible? It helps to step out of perfectionism, because you take into account what's possible, and it brings you to realistic expectations. Don't make it too big, but what's in my possibilities? What can I carry right now in the way I feel right now? And these three questions can help you to strengthen your boundaries, to be able, when you step in the world and you get a lot of triggers and requests and questions, that you know, oh, what can I take up today and what's possible, and to make choices and make appropriate priorities. So just enjoy that. That's for me. I give back. Let's take to the second one.
Thank you, Sonia. I'm witnessing that as soon as you started asking those questions, the how do you, especially the beginning, how do you feel right now? What I witnessed in me when I took a breath and just asked that question was, it was almost like there was a little child, my little inner child was like, oh, you're finally paying attention to me. Like just simply turning inward and asking that question gave this little person in me that had some needs in this moment to be witnessed. And that the power of self-witnessing is, I think, is such a powerful thing in pausing in that moment and not rushing past that moment to, look after somebody else's needs. And I'm curious from you in terms of one of the things we hear again and again, and I'm sure in the conversations, even in the certification program, that a lot of people have difficulty expressing their own needs. I don't know what I need. I can figure out what everybody else needs. And I'm curious for you, having done this practice, if this is helping you to get better and better at articulating your own needs in a situation. Does that feel true for you?
For me, certainly. It's not always ready, but I can accept not knowing, because that brings me to the next step. If I accept that I don't know what I need right now, then there comes an opening. But if I'm too much trying to grab it and to fix it and to wanting to know what is it, what I want right now, I getting blank. So it's just opening and releasing, and then it pops up. And it's certainly by taking that how I feel is for me the indicator. If I feel tired, yes, it's clear that maybe I need some rest. Can I allow to give me that rest? And I just found a moment to give me that rest. So it's just growing by each time having this little check-in to come nearer and nearer to know yourself. And that's for the others around you also interesting, because you can be more clear about what you need. And so you have no misunderstanding, because you are so clear about what you need.
Thank you for that. I'm going to open it up. If there is a question, you can drop it into the chat, or if somebody wants to raise your hand to ask a question. It is, because I can't see everybody on the screen. If you do want to speak, it would be good. Either you can unmute and speak, or you can use the electronic hand raising. That way it pops up in my screen And that's under the reactions down at the bottom. But is there someone who wants to offer either a reflection or question on what Sonia has shared? Either they're typing long things in the chat, they're not popping in yet, or they're just sitting with what you've shared. Thank you for that, Sonia. We're going to pass it to Frankie for the next one.
All right. Thank you. I will start immediately with a tip, and then I will explain where it comes from. My tip to hold space for yourself is learn how to accept compliments. Where does it come from? It's a long story, and I'm going to try to shorten it. I think it's now 10 years ago. I was giving one of my first workshops in self-care. And it was to a bunch of nurses somewhere in Belgium. I think we were 14 or 15 nurses. And when looking at the participants list, I saw that one of them had their anniversary that day. It was her birthday. And I figured out who it was. And before the course officially started, I went to that person and I asked, "Can we sing for your birthday?" That person really went mad. No, you can't. And I'm sure if I would have done it, that she would have left the course or whatsoever. And then I started to reflect for myself, would I accept it? Who accepts it? And I figured it out. You should know that from origin, I'm a statistician. And I saw some correlation between people, let's say, who have got some work to do on their self-worth and the fact that they accept yes or no, that they can accept compliments even for existing, because that's what a birthday is all about. Thank you that you exist, and we're going to celebrate that. So my question to you is, and you can give some, if you want, some things in the chat. What happens to you if you receive a compliment? What happens to you if somebody spontaneously starts to sing for your birthday? How do you react? What happens? And if you don't want to speak out loudly in the chat room, that's no problem at all. But just give it some reflection. And that day, I think it's 10 years ago, I started wondering about myself. Where does it come from me? What happens to me? Oh, thank you. Yeah. Shy. Used to be shy, now I feel warm and appreciated. Yeah. That's what's also happened to me. I had to learn to accept a compliment or to be seen, because I think in the beginning I had difficulties with that. And I see a lot of people also say, I smile, laugh and sing along. I really like that. But also I see people saying, I get awkward. Yeah. And honestly, I had a lot of work to do on that, to accept compliments, to accept, because I have been educated in such a way that my parents, I know they loved me, but they would never say it. They would never let me feel that I was loved. And I had to accept being loved. I had to accept receiving compliments. And I did a lot of tremendous work on that to receive it. And for me, it now goes far since 2 years, because I can say I receive a lot of birthday wishes now on my birthday that I do not respond on birthday wishes. Normally, I always give to other people, and my birthday is just the day where I receive and not doing anything else than receiving. So my tip for you is, if you got problems with self-worth or withholding space for yourself, learn how to accept compliments. That was my story and my tip.
Thank you, Frankie. Two things come up for me when I hear that, and that is, in my own exploration of the same concept, I've discovered that some of it is about lack of worthiness, not necessarily feeling worthy of the compliment. But then there's another part of me, and I'm curious if you have thoughts on this too. There's another part of me that worries that if you compliment me, now I've established a certain expectation and I'm going to let you down the next time. And that, I think that's what limits me sometimes, like, oh, you're always going to expect me to be this way now. If somebody said I did something well, then now I've established an expectation. I'm wondering if you have that experience too, that it constricts you because now you worry about letting somebody down or disappointing somebody after that. Does that feel true? Or?
I've got a similar experience, but let's say more in an opposite way. The rare times my parents gave me a compliment, they said, but just take it, it's occasionally, it's just only once we're gonna say you that, because otherwise you might get, as we call it in Flemish, a dikke nek. You will become bragging about yourself. Yeah, funny, that's the sign, yes. So we're not going to give too much compliments, because then you get the expectation that you will always get compliments. So, but I can relate to what you're saying, but for me it was in the opposite way.
Yeah. Thank you. I want to again invite a reflection or question from the group. If somebody wants to, I see some great sharing has happened, and some people are sharing some family history and some different kinds of response. Some are more awkward, some are smiling and saying thank you. And I appreciate what Allison is saying about digging into the family history of what brought you to this place of where you are. And we all have different family systems we're part of that have different stories around what it means to be complimented. Is there a question or a reflection that anybody has? Oh, I see a hand being raised. Hans.
Yeah,
My
reflection on that is that when I was younger and people would sing for me on my birthday, it would be very awkward, because all of a sudden you're the center of the attention, and that felt for me very unsafe, because I was comfortable being on my own or just watching and listening, and then being the center of the attention, being put on the spot. So that would be very uncomfortable. And it was through learning to, people would say, but it's okay to accept this, and we like you. So gradually it would become easier, also to be seen, because it's also about seeing and being seen, and being comfortable about being seen that I'm worth it, and that I'm not strange because I'm more sensitive. But it's yeah. So just daring to be myself.
Thank you. Frankie, do you have any follow-up to that?
Yeah, I can relate to that, what you're saying, Hans. And for me, it's my thing is, let's say, not exactly the same, but similar. But let's say I've been bullied a lot when I was a youngster. And then one day you receive compliments because of your birthday. Is it true? Do they really mean it? What's the hidden agenda? So it made me also cringe because of that. Am I worth it? Or is it just because after they have been singing for me, they know they receive some chocolates as a birthday treat? So for me, there is also a lot of similarities, but I think with what you just said on that. So thank you, Hans, for telling.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that the addition of that language around safety, I think is really valuable because I often we don't think about it in terms of worthiness and but to bring in safety, like, is it actually safe to be in this position of people paying attention to me, of elevating me in, you know, or saying good things about it? Is it safe? Can I trust it? Or and sometimes, and I noticing the reactions of people, some people feel awkward, and what's going on in your body when that's actually happening is a good question to ask. If somebody is singing happy birthday to me, or if I'm receiving a compliment, how is my body responding to what's in the room right then? And what does that tell me about what level of safety is present for me? Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm seeing there's some good things to keep an eye on the chat, because there's some good additional things being said. Pasha, I'm going to pass to you next.
Thank you, Heather. Good evening, everyone. So great to see everyone. I was at this moment, I am in kind of a liminal space. I'm finishing up a job that I've been doing for 17 years now, to choose my own path and leave my working place. So in this liminal space, I found that holding space for myself was actually really necessary, but also one of the hardest things I have to do still, because I haven't finished it yet. So in this liminal space, all kinds of feelings, you know, pass by, because this has been a relationship that I've been in for 17 years. So leaving my work means being disloyal. I have to leave my team. So I have to be disloyal to my team. So there's all kinds of feelings that are not so pleasant, but that I have to, you know, sit with and go through, because it's all part of the closure that I have to make in saying goodbye to my work. So but that also meant I you know, holding space for yourself is a practice. It's something that you need to do every day. You have to be aware of how you move in the world, how you navigate your relationships with other people and with yourself. And I think that, and it's also something that I'm hearing back in the stories that are shared up until now. We are not really used to taking up the space for ourselves, to hold space for ourselves. I think especially women. I don't know how it is for men, because I'm not in a men's body, so I don't know how it feels for men. But I know that especially women are reluctant to take up space for themselves, to acknowledge what they need. At least for me, it's like that. So I was listening to all these stories, and there were things about how do you Sonia was giving us the tips, and I was thinking, yeah, but you can give the tips, but allow how do you allow yourself to pause in your busy day and taking your own time for yourself to reflect on how do I feel, how does my body feel. And I think that has to do with the stories we tell ourselves. And these stories are stories about safety, about being acknowledged, about being worthy, about acceptance. And I'm just giving you the question, what if you were allowed yourself just for one moment to let go of these old stories and to let go of these convictions that you have, the things that other people think about you? What movement can be possible if you let go of these old stories? Because I think that that's something that lies underneath all the questions that we ask ourselves if we take the room to hold space for ourselves. So I'm just giving you the question and that you sit with it for a bit.
You passing back to me, Pasha, or did you have more?
No, I'll pass it back to you. Thank you.
My follow-up question, I really appreciate this, and I keep learning this myself too, that I'm in charge of my own stories, and that I forget that sometimes. I think sometimes the stories have been imposed on me, that this bad thing happened to me, and then I remind myself again and again, I get to choose how I tell that story. And so I'm curious, my follow-up question is, are there any ways that you found to help you let go of those stories? Like, are there any practices, or is it just a question, or journal writing, or are there things that help you with that release of those stories?
Yeah. Sometimes I journal. Sometimes I just, write things down, even if it's just one or two sentences. And there are, apps where you can just, journal in a diary. So, and it gives you like every day, it gives you like, you need to write in your diary. So you get your reminders. But it also helps me to just sit with the discomfort and just, place it outside myself, look at it. I may have like an object that I place before myself and just picture that being the discomfort or the old story. And once you look at it and you externalize it, it becomes smaller, because everything that is, that you keep in your head is just growing and getting bigger. And once you like, it's like a balloon, and if you let out some air, if you write it down or you externalize it in one way or another, then it becomes smaller, and then you can place your story you can, how do you say it, you can separate it from yourself.
Distance, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that idea. I when I think of that, what comes up for me is that now I'm detaching it from my identity. If I can actually take an object and place it on the table to represent a story, I can detach it from, this is me, this is how I define myself. No, this is simply a story, and now I can examine it from an external perspective. I like that.
Yes. Thank you.
Any reflections or questions for Pasha? You might want to consider what's your old story you're ready to externalize and place outside of you today. What's something you can do for yourself when you leave this call? Let's give another moment in case anybody has anything. All right, if not, it is time to pass it to Fanny.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Before telling my tip, I'd like to do a small exercise with you all, and then I will share what I did. And the exercise I've done just before this call as well. So I'd like you to just do a little flirt with the room you're sitting in. And a flirt goes a bit like this. You close your eyes for a moment, and then you see it through your eyes, not really opening them, but opening them a little bit, and then looking around in the room. Like you're just observing it, not very clearly, but with a little gaze. And then we go a bit further in our flirt and we open our eyes a little further. And we look at the room again. Maybe you want to look a bit higher up in the room, a little bit down on the ground. And maybe there is something in your room inviting you right here, right now, at this moment. So let's be invited by that thing that is in your room. And if you can, go a little closer. Even if we can't see you then on the screen, just go a little closer to what is taking your attention, what is flirting with you. And touch it if you can. And if it's too big, just imagine that you can touch it. And just tap into the energy of whatever is flirting with you. And just imagine that we are all energy. So you are passing on energy to what you are touching, but what you are touching is also passing on energy to you. So what does it pass to you? What can enter you, your body? How can it maybe be a little shift of energy? And then we leave it again where it is, or if you really love it right now, you can also bring it to us. You might even show it, what you found. We can have that little moment as well, that you can show what you touched, if it's showable. I don't know. Very curious. I'll show what's mine. I see some objects coming in. Lovely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So this is a little exercise I do to hold myself. Oh, I see lovely objects coming in. And today, though this stone flirted with me, usually I get very attracted by stones. There's something in that grounding energy that I really like. But I think the essence of this small exercise for me is when I try to hold space for myself, it's sometimes good to just have that mindset of being open to whatever comes to you that might pass some energy to you, energy that you might not even were conscious of that you would need it. Like for instance, today I touched this stone and I really felt that it is, maybe if you see it a bit closer, it is composed by different elements. And it felt for me like a very unpolished stone. It was a bit rough. And it was also all together. So for me, this was just before the meeting, I was very conscious, or I became very conscious by touching this object about a togetherness that I have with the people on this team, not even knowing each other already. there's a roughness in our togetherness as well. It's not so polished already. So it was just a thought that came into my mind and that warmed me up a bit for this session. So that's how it works with me, that I'm open to do these little flirts with whatever is around me. And I tend to go to stones, and I guess that's something I learned. I have a very sensitive body. And in earlier times, when I was with groups, I tended to go all over the place, you know. I sensed so many things and which way to go. And so sometimes holding a stone or grabbing a stone or even lie down on the ground for some moments just before entering a group space, it made that I was more grounded and could contain all those sensitivity, which is a great gift, but to contain it better for myself and to be more in service of a group, because I am a facilitator. So I want to facilitate the process and not make it more difficult. Yeah, so that's a bit of a sharing of my story and a tip to you.
Oh, I really like that. I'm going to be flirting with things all afternoon now, I think. That what it also brings up for me, there's in the trauma field, there's this concept, and in attachment theory, they talk about co-regulation, how we can co-regulate with another body. When our nervous system is activated, we can another person coming alongside us can help to regulate our nervous system. And there's also a concept called eco-regulation, where we can do that with the natural world, that we can stand by a tree or something and eco-regulate. And what I'm hearing you say is that that's kind of what you're doing with the objects in your room, that your stone that you hold can, and I love that. Like it doesn't require, like, it's not like we're going all the way to being animists in our kind of spiritual belief system, but we can still receive energy from other objects in the room. And the curiosity I have, because I'm just thinking, and now my mind is kind of playing with the curiosity, is, do you notice different kinds of objects respond to your body differently? Like, are there times when you think, oh, I really need to be with stones right now, or times when you think, oh, I really need to be by the water right now? Are you noticing that in your body, that you're picking up those kinds of nuances and what you need to be present with?
Yeah, interesting question, Heather. And thank you for the word eco-regulation. I didn't hear that one before, so that's a nice one to remember. Yeah, definitely. I feel that some periods in my life, I might need other things. Like 3 months ago, I had some difficult experiences doing the work, and I tended to go to the water a lot just to clean myself. So, and to dive into the water and be there. And now the last weeks, I have more stones around me, so I need to ground more, or yeah. So it's interesting to see how this works differently. Sometimes I have it also with needing fire, burning candles a lot. So I have different periods in my life where I need different things. I also like smells, for instance, like etheric oils, or to use in the room with the group. So a lot of things, in fact, attract me. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and I've written a blog post about that in the past, but when my mom was dying, I kept going to the shore to balance rocks. You know, that kind of Zen practice of rock balancing. Something about that period of my mom dying, that was what I needed in that time. And so I think I love that idea of really paying attention to what's the relationship, the natural relationship you need for a particular period in your life.
Now you're telling the thing about balancing rocks. I remember some months ago, I was doing a process with a group of climate activists, and we did a pile of stones to represent the grief, and everybody could lay a stone for what they grieved for. And it was a really beautiful process to work with nature in that kind of way, and was very special to me also. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you. Anyone from the group want to offer something? I see Karen regulates with colors.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, my clothes.
Yeah,
Nice.
I like that. Mika says that, like the playfulness from next exercise. Yeah, I think we're all gonna go home and or go flirt with our objects in our room. I love that language too, flirting with them. I'll just pause for a moment in case anyone wants to offer something else.
I want to offer something.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm a physiotherapist and I followed a lot of courses. And in one of my courses, I learned about tensegrity. Tensegrity is the combination of forces going to the center and forces going to expansion and absorption. And that learned me, being high sensitive, to make contact with my bones who are the most strongly aspects of my body that were working as a frame that give me physically expansion. So physically I exercised making space and that physically exercising was very a neutral condition, not emotionally. So in contact with my bones, I learned a better balance, also not only expanding my body, but also an expansion to the environment of me as a person. So my physical condition helped me as a person in being a better balance in relation with my environment. So not only receiving, but also expanding and telling about my inner to the environment. And perhaps I show you a picture about tensegrity.
Can you also, when you're done, can you spell that the word that you're saying? Can you spell that in the chat? That would be that would be helpful if
Yes.
people want to research it.
You see tensegrity? No, I'll do it in the chat.
Yeah, you can type some. Oh, somebody's already typed it into the chat. Tensegrity.
In this picture, you see the
Okay.
bones being a frame that gives you inner space, and the muscles and all the elastic tissues holding the bones together. So there is an action to hold it together, and there's an expansion, physically giving yourself space in contact with your own bones. And it helped me. It helped me a lot.
Yeah.
It helped me so much that I also treated my patients with that idea. And I wrote a book about it.
Oh, great.
Because I'm so excited that that your body can help you as a person.
Yeah. You're welcome to post, if you have a link for resources, if you've written a book about it, you're welcome to post that in the chat and people can do the research about it later.
It's in Netherlands, so.
Well, there's lots of people here could read it. I might not be able to, but
it's called high sensitivity change high sensitivity and change it in a subtle feeling that is veerkrachtig, fijngevoelig. I don't know how to.
Resilience. Is it the word you're looking for? Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Hilda.
Thank you.
We learned a lot new words in this little sharing, I guess.
Yeah.
I
want to make sure we manage the time so we get all of our tips in and then hopefully get a little bit of time for breakout rooms. So I'm going to pass it to Brenda next.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's nice to just be able to share what's happening for me about holding space as well, because I've learned so much the last few years, and it is a practice that keeps on going. It's not like I've learned a lot the last 2 years and now I'm quite done. I'm a speech pathologist, and actually I thought about communication. I'm doing fine with that. I'm a good listener, but I'm a good listener to other people. And how much attention do I pay to myself? And that's the thing that motivated me, because I think I'm quite sure I'm not by coincidence in this kind of job, and also not for coincidence in the work that I'm doing now with giving courses, because I learn every day still. But one thing that I noticed is that the tip that I want to offer you is, can you recognize what you do to avoid discomfort? When I look at myself, I know that I'm busy all the time, and I can be busy with being in action, but I noticed as well how much I'm busy in my head with thinking about things. And that was an interesting thing, because when you overthink things, then you keep busy here, but you're not connected to your body. So I try to find a solution in my head. I keep thinking it over and over again. And for example, I go outside for a walk because I think, oh, lovely, I need some space. I have to take care of myself. I go out for a walk. And then I notice myself outside. I haven't even seen the environment at all, because I was thinking all the time about a solution for something that was happening. And actually, I'm more exhausted after the walk than I did for myself. So, noticing what kind of avoidance I had to feel discomfort, because actually, sometimes it's a good excuse to stay thinking about something instead of choosing something. Because if I choose, then I'm responsible. Then I have to take the responsibility for my thing that I choose, for the answer that I gave. So putting that forward and not making a decision and trying to rationalize it, so that when I give an answer, I can say, oh, I really have a good thought about it. It's not that I just decided this. I really am sure that this is the best for all, because that's another thing. I want to make a decision that people say, oh yeah, I can agree with that too. Oh, it's good that you consider this and this. But is it actually a decision that I made when I'm in contact with my body? Or did I make the decision more rational because it's good for all the other ones? So it's overthinking is a way for me to not make contact with my body. And I learned so much that there's so much wisdom and my intuition that I can just be quiet and go outside for a walk, listen to the sounds that I hear, feeling the wind on my face and the temperature on my body, make contact with all my senses. And then surprisingly, some idea is hitting my head, but not because I was thinking so much about it, but it just comes into my mind. And I like that. So I see it sometimes like it's always good to think. It's not that the advice is don't think at all, just only trust your intuition. We need both, but feel what kind of energy you might lose when you overthink too much. And is it really a decision from the body? So it's interesting. I just want you to reflect on, do you have any idea what your way is to avoid the discomfort? Is it maybe also overthinking things? Or maybe just go back to work again, open your laptop or your phone? Or is it hanging out on social media just to see again if there's something new? It can be just ways that you need to slow down. But my question is, do you really need that to relax, or is it a way to avoid discomfort? without judging yourself too hard for it, but just being aware, because I think the more we're connected with the body, the more we hold space for ourselves as well. I see a lot of things happening in the chat and I'm not paying attention to that. But go ahead, Heather.
Yeah, I'm gonna Ellison shares some good things in the chat, and so I'm curious. What Ellison says that after some bad ankle sprains, I developed a mantra to help me be present when I'm walking or hiking. Pause, breathe, step with intention. And so I want to ask you a question based rooted in that, Brenda. I'm wondering if there is a particular way that you've learned to like when you notice yourself in that pattern, whatever it is, overthinking, overdoing, and like getting busy, what is it you tell yourself, or what is it you do in that moment to actually sit with the discomfort and be present with it? Is that something you can share with us?
Yeah.
Just to give us a little bit more tools again to so now I know there is discomfort I'm avoiding. So what's that action I need to take right now?
Yeah, thank you for asking, because there is one way for me that works so nice, because it's very, very easy. It is my breath. And I make it a little bit more like I can feel the breath is going in through my nose and out through my nose. But I try to focus on it if I cannot hear it, because when I'm in a busy mode, I can really hear myself like, okay, I'm going to do this, or oh no, I don't want this. So when I watch and observe my breath and try to make it without any sound, that's when I notice that I just stay with whatever is there. And like Pasha is saying, it's like recognizing or giving acknowledgement to that feeling. And that makes it possible maybe to put it outside. So that's one thing I use as well. Can you make contact with that feeling? That's the next step. So first, it helps me to go back to my breathing, observe it, and then that can be enough, because we don't have to change or fix all the things, just observe.
Yeah. Thank you. One of the things I'm noticing, and there's a bit of a theme in other reflections that we've heard today, is that it comes back to my relationship with my body. Can I be in self-witnessing and use my body to help me hold this, to use my breath, settle my body enough so that I can hold this? I don't think that holding space for ourselves is not a head exercise. It's deeper than that. It's a head, it's a holistic, it's head, heart, body, soul. It's all of those things. It holds us, holds it. So when I hear you say breath, I think that's a good one can I just let my breath help me hold this in me? We're running short on time, so I'm going to offer my tip, and then we may or may not have time for a quick check or quick breakout room. But I'm going to offer the sixth and final tip for people, and then hopefully we have a bit of time for conversation. I think we might just keep that in the big group, because breakout rooms we may not really have time for that. But with that said, let me share what my tip is, and it's one that many of you may have heard me share before. I've written about it and I've taught about it. But what has become one of the most profound practices for me is to be in a tender relationship with myself, to bring tenderness into the way I treat myself. And this was kind of a profound shift. I didn't realize that I was not being tender with myself. I didn't realize that my desire to achieve, my desire to work hard, my desire to, do the best I could, my perfectionism, all of those things were rooted in a lack of self-tenderness. And so what my practice, it's a bigger practice than just one thing, but what I really want to invite you to do is to learn to be exceedingly tender with yourself, with the little child in you, with the hurt in you, with the part of you that is scared, the part of you that doesn't feel safe. And I have kind of intentionally started to think of tenderness as external to me so that it can comfort me in a way that I sometimes don't have capacity for in myself. So it's a leaning into that tenderness. Can I receive tenderness? And sometimes that tenderness looks like there's a practice I've adopted called havening touch, which is learning to just treat yourself the way, stroke your arms and your face in a way that you would a small child, to just be in that kind of tender relationship with your body. It's also in the way I talk to myself. Can I be tender in those moments when I've made a mistake, for example? How would I talk to a small child who had made a mistake? Can I use that same self-talk to say, oh, I know you're scared right now. I know you're feeling shame right now. Can you just be, just soothe myself in that tender way? And I find this has really expanded my capacity to hold what's uncomfortable, what's scary, what feels shameful. So I encourage you in this moment right now, then perhaps you can sit and do choose some tender way of touching your own body. It can be stroking your arms. Havening touch kind of has 3 parts to it: an arm stroke like this, and then there's the hands back and forth is the second, and then running the hands down the face is the third. And I remember when I first started doing this with a practitioner that I work with sometimes, I couldn't believe how much emotion welled up in me when I just felt that touch on my face. It felt like there was this, again, inner child in me that hadn't been touched like that in a really long time. And so knowing I can do that for myself has been really meaningful. So that's my tip. I want to invite not just conversation if you want to respond to my tip, but I want to open it up right now. We don't really have time for breakout rooms, but I do want to open up your reflections, and Krista, I'll invite Krista to share the 3 breakout room questions that if we were going to send you in breakout rooms, we would ask those questions, and you can just reflect on those yourself, or if you want to respond either in the chat or in or speak up. We do have a time for a few voices if a few people want to raise their hands and enter into the conversation. First of all, I invite you to reflect on which tip really resonated for you. If you get off this call and you're talking to a friend tomorrow or later today, and somebody asks you, so what did you learn from the workshop? What's the one thing you're going to say that you might do differently based on what you heard today? What's one of the tips that most resonates for you? And we as your teachers are not going to take it personally if everybody chooses one tip or the other. It's all in what resonates. We're not in a position of evaluating which gets the most votes. It's more about what is alive for you, what's resonating for you. And then the second question was, what challenges are involved in holding space? Why is this hard work? Why is this stretching us so much, even at this stage of our lives? I'm 57 right now, and I still find some of these things stretching me and hard to do. And so I'm curious from you about what challenges are involved in holding space for you. And then what possibilities come from it when you learn to hold space. And I think it was Custer's was talking about learning about the body. Suddenly she was much more aware of how to hold space for herself, and there were more possibilities opening up. And you heard that from all of the tips today, that there's this possibility that cracks open when you do actually hold space for yourself. And for me, one of the possibilities is the more I hold space for myself, the deeper my relationships with other people are. I have this capacity for being present with other people that I didn't have in my past. So there's a couple of reflections coming in. If anybody wants to share something into the chat, either in the chat or if you want to speak up, Custer has shared, your body can learn your mind to be calm. Yeah, I think that's a really important point about practicing being in our body and receiving what our bodies can offer our minds. Valerie has offered a few things. Oh, now they're starting to pop in. I can't read them all. Question: what is possible when I allow myself to get rid of old stories? to dance with life. It makes me smile. I love that. I almost tempted to invite us all into some kind of body practice or movement right now to dance with our possibilities. Any voices? And I invite the other presenters, if you have any closing thoughts too, to feel free to share, unmute and share.
I wanted to add to your reflection on tenderness, and you said how if you learn to be more tender with yourself, then you can be more tender with others, and that also entails that you are less judgment. At least that's what I'm experiencing, that you are less judgmental to other people that you know might have judgment on. So the more you love yourself, more capacity you will to love others, even if they have a different point of view or a different view on life.
Yeah, I can share something very recent and very personal in that regard. I was in communication with somebody, a family member who has had the capacity to trigger me a fair bit in the past. So I find my relationship with this person is often one of being fairly defended when I'm in conversation with them. And I am noticing there's less and less of that defendedness in my body because I am more tender. Nothing has changed in this person's behavior, but I can show up knowing, trusting myself to be tender with myself, trusting myself to hold myself well, to have good boundaries. I don't need to defend against it quite as much. I can show up more open in that relationship because I have learned more and more self-love and more how to hold my own container. And so, yeah, even in those challenging relationships, we can show up softer, and that's not to say it not with good boundaries, but still express some tenderness in those tougher relationships. Someone's saying they love, can you recognize what to do to avoid discomfort, self-love, and self-trust? Thank you so much for sharing. I'm delighted that everyone has chosen to be with us today. Any last thoughts that somebody wants to share? You want to unmute and share anything? Anyone?
Yeah, I'd like to reflect on what you said about tenderness. I find that really is one of the things that strikes me the most, because it's such a profound way to connect with myself and to be more open and less judgmental about myself and others, and just with these very simple ways of stroking your face or your back, it's a direct connection that does so much. And there's one practice that I learned from someone else. I don't remember her name, but it was to hold my fist in my hand and to say, you are safe, you are loved, you matter to this world. And those three things, also in times of stress or when things get too much, for me is a really valuable practice to hold space for myself. So, and that's also the connection with that tenderness being, and it's three things that are so important and so simple in a way. It starts with you are safe. We are not in a war. It may be discomfort, but it's not so severe. You are loved because there's always someone that loves you. and you matter to this world, because that's the thing that I noticed when getting older is what's the most important is, okay, what can I be in this world, just in what I can do in my immediate environment, which has ultimately an impact on the world. So yeah, that's one. And of course, the flirting with the room and the objects. That's a very playful way that I'm going to take.
Thank you, Hans. I could feel some tears welling up in my body as you were sharing. And as I was holding myself that way, just listening to your words and being present, even with that practice, was bringing something up in my body. So thank you for sharing that into the circle as well. It's been a real pleasure to be here with you today and share these. I'm gonna leave here and be thinking about these. I'm gonna be flirting with a broom, and I'm gonna all of the things that have been shared. Before we go, I just want to share a few things. I'm in less than 2 weeks. I'm heading to first to Belgium and then to the Netherlands. And I'm just going to share briefly my screen to show you that list of upcoming workshops. I'll be in Belgium first for an introductory workshop. So if you're new to these ideas of holding space, that's a really good place to join us first in Belgium. That one's hosted by Frankie and Sonia. And then I'm going to the Netherlands in early November, and I'm delighted to be co-teaching with Brenda for this first time. We've been working together quite some time now, and she's hosted me beautifully for several years. And now we're going to be teaching shoulder to shoulder, side by side, developing a workshop called Supporting Your Client, Nurturing Your Well-Being. And that's also introductory, and it's geared especially to people that work in therapeutic relationships with clients. And then from November 6th to 8th, I'll also be in Netherlands. That's a more advanced workshop. So it's meant particularly for those who've taken some version of our programming before, either one of my workshops or been in our programs online, our foundation programs. That's also with Brenda hosting in the Netherlands. And then I'm going back to Belgium, and I'll be working with Fanny. And Fanny is we'll be delivering that's a more advanced workshop too, particularly on these ideas of liminal space and being trauma informed. And so that gives you a bit of an idea of what we have. We're really delighted to have all these workshops coming up. Krista is going to share the contact information of all of the team into the chat, I believe, in case you want to email any of them, get in touch with them about any of the workshops. And I also want to say, if in the next 24 hours you decide I'm signing up, and you sign up and within 24 hours from right now, you're going to get an advanced copy, or a digital copy of my next book, Where Tenderness Lives, on healing. Oh, now I'm forgetting on healing, liberation, and holding space for oneself. So it's all about these kinds of topics that we're talking today. That's coming out in January. You'll get it in early January before anybody else does. So if you sign up in 24 hours from now, you can also sign up if you can't make it for the in-person workshops. If you decide to join us for our foundation program, we have the How to Hold Space Foundation program starting in October. So if you choose to sign up for that one in 24 hours from now, you can also just email us and let us know. I did it 24 hours after the webinar, and we'll make sure to put you on the list for the book as well. So the email addresses are popping into the chat. I do want to say, in case you're listening to this recording afterwards, the 24 hours is only after the webinar. It's not going to continue after when the recording is available. I think that's the information that I need to convey at the end of this. Are there any questions that I can answer right now in the 3 minutes, or one of our team members can answer for you? You're also welcome to get in touch with them. I know all of these people are generous, open-hearted people that are great with having follow-up conversations or responding to emails. So I know you'll get good answers as well if you email them. I see some thank yous coming in. Yeah. Oh, that was just to say, Krista has said that we're going to send out a follow-up email. You'll get access to the recording, which you can share. By the way, it'll be accessible to anyone who wants it after this. We will also send all of the information about the upcoming workshops. And I think what we're probably going to do is develop like a PDF with all of the tips, just so you can have a handy reference. If you want to print it up and put it up on your wall by your computer, we'll try to create something like that too as well for you.
It will be a thing that flirts with you maybe in the room then.
Yeah. We're all going to remember that language now, Fanny. Thanks for bringing that that idea to us. Okay, is there any wrap up from any of the other team members before we close?
No, just that I'll be co-hosting together with Brenda the advanced.
Right, I forgot to mention you. Thank you for bringing that in, Pasha. Yeah, Brenda and Pasha and I have done the advanced together. We had a lovely time working together last year, and we're really excited about working together and delivering the advanced workshop in the Netherlands. And yeah, so it keeps getting richer and richer, this work together. And so I think that's what I want to say in closing. Deep gratitude to my coworkers, Sonia, Brenda, Pasha, Fanny, Frankie, and also to Krista, who keeps holding the outer rim of the container for us. Thank you all for showing up and contributing. And I feel so blessed to be in a community of people who hold this work with so much care and love and open-heartedness. So thank you very much. Thank you, all of you participants, for being with us today. And yeah, Brenda, go ahead.
Only because I did a check-in to make the circle round. It would be great to check out with each other. I didn't have the opportunity to hear all your voices, but Krista, if you stop recording, then we can check out with unmute yourself and just give the bye that you want to give us all together. Only if you're really ready, Heather, because otherwise I give back the talking piece to you. We're done. Okay. So you have
Thank you
all the
very
email.
much.